Hey everyone, and welcome to Facty. Today, we are going to learn about 5 mental hacks to learn anything faster. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Instruction mastery. What's the easiest way to learn about a new subject? Instead of teaching yourself, try to teach somebody else. Take all the information you learned and create a lesson that anybody could understand. First, find a friend, partner, or family member willing to listen. Next, sit them down and talk through all the concepts you're trying to understand. You may discover, upon teaching someone else, that you don't know as much as you thought. Your friend or partner might ask simple questions that poke holes in your understanding. Or maybe you find yourself relying on complicated definitions to explain topics you can't fully comprehend. But these mistakes are good. The goal here is to find your strengths and weaknesses. By teaching someone else, you learn what you understand and what you don't. That way, you can go back and review what you've learned. You can shore up the weak spots in your knowledge and achieve a greater understanding of almost any concept. So don't just learn about a subject. Teach someone else what you're learning. If you can present information in a way that's cohesive, simple, and complete, you've mastered the subject. If you can't, you know exactly what areas to tackle first. Number 2. Burst learning. Do you study for hours on end? Cramming is one of the most common learning strategies, but it's also one of the least efficient. When you study for hours at a time, your brain gets tired. You feel cloudy and unfocused because you're ingesting more information than your brain can handle. Instead of cramming for hours, divide your study sessions into short bursts. Study for 30 minutes, then rest for 30 minutes. Study again. Rest again. Repeat the process until you feel like you've mastered your subject. Why is burst learning more efficient than cramming? Because it counteracts mental fatigue. When your brain stays fresh and attentive, you absorb more information. You learn faster because your brain isn't exhausted from hours of continuous labor. If you're a notorious crammer, it's time to reinvent the way you learn. Study in short but hyper-productive bursts to make the most of every session. Number 3. Reward-based motivation. Your mood and attitude significantly impact the way you learn. If you're bored and spiteful, you're not going to learn very much. But if you're motivated and enthusiastic, you'll absorb more information. So how do you keep your brain feeling positive when you want to learn something new? Rewards can be a great source of motivation. Studying isn't always the most exciting activity in the world, but you can spice up each study session with a stimulating reward system. Rewards give your brain something to get excited about. You might reward yourself with a break, a snack, or a trip outside. Use any reward that gets your brain excited to work and learn. But remember to stay disciplined. Don't reward yourself unless you have earned that reward. If you start cheating your own system, your brain isn't going to learn much of anything. Number 4. Mental spacing. Mental spacing is another great way to structure the learning process. This technique encourages learners to take long breaks after studying or reviewing difficult information. Why? Because your brain thinks, understands, and stores information even when you're not actively studying. Let's say you study for 1 hour. Your brain probably didn't retain all the information you studied. It needs time to make sense of those new concepts. Instead of studying more, do something else. Go for a walk. Spend time with your friends. Eat a meal or play a game. During each of these activities, your brain will continue mulling over the information you learned. In the back of your mind, you'll make connections, create associations, and experience epiphanies. You might be talking to a friend when suddenly a difficult concept clicks into place. That's the advantage of mental spacing. If you hadn't taken a break, your brain wouldn't have made that connection. So space out your study sessions. Give your brain plenty of time to think, because you may experience these eye-opening epiphanies when you least expect it. Number 5. Educational games. Educational games are another way to speed up the learning process. Normally, when you study, it may feel like you're banging your head against a wall. You might think of 1,000 things you'd rather do than stare at charts, diagrams, and textbooks. But what if you convert that information into a game? Educational games activate completely different parts of your brain. Suddenly, learning feels competitive, sensory, and maybe even fun. The best part is, there are dozens of different games you can create and play all on your own. Use index cards to create an information-based card game. Flip your cards upside down to play classic games like concentration. You can even design a point system to incorporate an element of competition into your study sessions. Choose whatever game sounds the most fun to you. And don't be afraid to gamify anything you're learning, because educational games trick your brain into learning a whole lot more. Thank you for watching Facty, and be sure to subscribe or follow, because more incredible content is on the way.